This is the Business Marketing and Finance Podcast, the podcast for all your business marketing and financial needs. Get insight from experienced professionals as they delve deep into their passions and share their knowledge each week with your host, Daryl James. Like to follow or learn more? You know what to do. Hit that subscribe button now.
Welcome everyone to this week's BMF podcast. I'm your host, Daryl James, and my next guest is a dynamic pastor, speaker, businesswoman, author of 5 books, as well as founder and producer of Elevate TV. Welcome Pastor Dawn Davis Lawrence to the Business Marketing Finance Podcast.
Hi, Daryl. It's great to be here.
Fantastic. It's good to have you on the show. Can you tell us a bit about your journey, what it was like growing up, and how you made the turning point to becoming the woman who you are today?
Okay, well, the turning point, I have to say then, has really been from I was a very, very young child, as it were. And I think the seeds of who I was going to become, without a doubt, was rooted in that. Mm-hmm. I grew up in a rural area in the West Country near Stonehenge. and essentially the middle child, as it were. Mm-hmm. I suppose I may have suffered from middle child syndrome. I'm not too sure. You'd have to ask my brothers.
Yeah.
Well, I have an older sister and 3 brothers above me and 3 brothers beneath me. And so I really was pressed into having to really find ways to defend myself in the midst of these boys. And I suppose my entrepreneurial spirit really began when I was very, very young. Mm-hmm. My mother's a pastor, her mother was a pastor, and I suppose her mother before her was a pastor. Oh, wow. But what I used to do was go out with my brothers, and we used to go back to what we called scrumping. And scrumping was essentially going into other people's gardens. And back in the day, it was okay. Spent a lot of time outside. Yeah. And we would go in and we would scrump and take, shake the trees. I'd climb the trees, shake the trees, the pears, and the apples would fall. And then we'd take them. And my brothers would always want to go home and begin making apple crumble and stuff like that. And I would say stuff like, well, if we're going to make apple crumble, and you think I was maybe about 7 or 8 or 9 at the time, then we have to sell it, So I would start selling these pears and apples and on the streets. I'd actually have a little place and I'd sell these that we'd scrumped. And if we made apple crumble, I'd sell that as well. Yeah. And I was maybe about 7 or 8, maybe 9 at the time. And so that kind of went on to me then beginning, really sort of looking into businesses and really just wanting to work for myself. Yeah. Oh, nice. So that's really where it all began. And then, sort of move into Birmingham and, such a visionary city and being a part of Great Vision under the leadership of Bishop Dunn and other great, great men and women of God who really inspired me to sort of look beyond working for anyone else. I never, ever really just wanted to work for anyone. I've always wanted to work for myself.
So do you think that their inspiration, do you think they mentored you in a way? Have you ever had a business mentor?
No, I've never had a business mentor. No, I haven't. I've always, it's the strangest thing because when you look at my report card, I wasn't able to read until a very late age. My reading skills were terrible. I wasn't doing well in school at all. I was, put in remedial class, it was called at the time. And yet my mother used to make us all go to the library when we were kids. And we would have to go to the library every Saturday, pick up 4 books and bring them home. And that began the sort of seeds in terms of me loving books and loving reading. But when I went to school, I was very shy and didn't like to read in public or anything like that. So I kind of played it down. Yeah. But when you go back to your question about a business mentor, for me, it was really me being mentored through those books that I read, having reading books, by Mike Murdoch and John Maxwell, people like that, Warren Buffett, those kind of guys, reading those books. And I suppose in that sense, they have mentored me. I'm always reading, I'm always listening to new things, always reading, always open. And I think that's key.
Yeah. So you mentioned a lot of authors there in terms of Warren Buffett and Mike Murdoch. Mike Murdoch. What are the top 3 books that have had the most impact in your life, and why?
Okay, so the top 3 books I would say was Woman Thou Art Loose, which is Bishop T.D. Jakes. The Magic of Thinking Big. That one just put me. I mean, that blew me out of the water when I read that.
Yeah.
And I would then say the other one is going to be the third one. I think it would be Awakening the Giant Within. That was another one that really
Tony Robbins. Yeah.
Oh my God, Tony Robbins. That one those books impacted me in such a massive way. TD's book, Woman Thou Art Loose, because for a long time being a female, a Black female in an environment that is very much men orientated in the churches that I came up in, you saw men all the time in those leadership positions and women really being suppressed, I would say. And then TD's book giving you permission to step out, and to do that book. Just absolutely, that was for me one of the most groundbreaking books for me. And then The Magic of Thinking Big. I can't remember who's written that, but then again, that book just threw me to another level. I never heard anything like it. Before. And then Anthony Robbins' book, for me, it was inspiring. It was motivating. It shared a part of his story. For me, it was like, well, Anthony was saying, well, if I can do it, you can. And, I really have a lot of respect for that man because I've watched his journey. And, people say, oh, motivational speakers, they're no good. But, who doesn't want to be motivated? I don't understand it when people say, I don't believe in motivational speakers. Well, what's there not to believe in?
It's true. Yeah. From they are coaching you and getting you results, it's going to be invaluable at the end of the day. I mean, The Magic of Thinking Big is one of my favorite books as well. I think it was David Schwartz. David Schwartz.
That's it.
Who wrote that one. And even Arnold Schwarzenegger to this day, he bases his whole career and success off of reading that book.
Yeah, I return to it over and over. Over the years, I've read that book countless times. To actually inspire me, just countless times. For me, it's a powerful book, and I really encourage anyone to just get the audio if you're not into reading, but listen to the audio or read it.
I definitely endorse that as well. Now, Pastor, you do quite a few different programs in coaching, helping women and men. Can you tell us about your coaching programs?
Okay, yes. Well, what I do is I do what I call my company's called Elevate. And essentially the programs are based around really digging down inside you to find that individual, who can live their best life. And so the programs are based around overcoming those obstacles, overcoming, so I've got, let's say, for example, I've got a life program, and that life program takes you from where you are to who you see yourself in your mind's eye being. And it takes you on a journey. So it can be 4 weeks, 6 weeks, or 12 weeks. The flagship program is 12 weeks. And flagship program is 12 weeks. And that one really just digs out all of those sort of internal blockages that we pick up along the way, that we don't even realize, those narratives that we tell ourselves. It really addresses all of those internal issues that stop us from becoming what, in essence, God purposed us to be. And it really just releases men and women from all of those, first and foremost, by recognizing what they are and then addressing them and then recalibrating and going forward. So that's that. And then I do the business one from a business perspective, looking at, those, again, looking at marketing. What is marketing? How do you market? You know, where do you market? Who do you market to? So really looking at those from a business perspective, but also looking at it from a life perspective as well. So beginning with you first, and then from you going on to, okay, well, if it's your own business that you want to start, or if it's, you know, you want to go for a managerial road or a leadership role, Elevate will get you there.
Yeah, fantastic. And you have a passion for restoring lives through your church, New Harvest. Can you tell the audience how it became part of your strapline?
Yeah, essentially for me, you know, when I suppose I've always had a passion for people and for really helping people up to where they want to be. And I suppose for me, it's been something that I think it's been something that's been inside of me from I was a child. But when it really came into play was when my marriage came to an end in 2005. And my life just came smashing down after, you know, 18 years of marriage. It just came smashing to pieces and my life was just shattered. And it wasn't even, it just didn't seem as if I could ever get up out of that. And I had 3 children, 2 suitcases, £138 and 28 pence in the bank. Wow. What was I going to do with that? How was I going to get my life back? And it was that journey of self-discovery, rediscovering who I was outside of what the church deemed me to be, what people deemed me to be, you know, all those labels and so forth, and all the fears, and just getting my life back, redefining myself, I suppose just a massive makeover. And when I realized that, and then I started doing that, and when I did that, and I saw the restorative process that God took me through to get me there, then I thought, well, I want to help God restore lives. I want to partner with him to restore lives, because I do not believe that there is anybody on the face of the planet who is beyond restoration. And I saw where God picked me up from. And people look at me now and say, oh, she doesn't understand. She's doing so well for herself. But if they were there with me when I had what appeared to be a hole in my lung, stomach ulcer, lost part of my hearing in my left ear, so many different complications, financial, physical, spiritual, social, psychological. I know God can restore. So I wanted to be a part of that. So it's like, okay, restoring lives, restoring homes. Because when your life is restored, then your home is restored. When your home is restored, then community is restored. So that's where that came from. Very true. During those times of, during the restoration period, would you say that you had quite strong faith and that's what brought you through? Or were there days that you had where it's just like, I just can't bother with today, I can't deal with today? How was the struggle process for you during that time? The struggle process for me really was people coming up alongside me, because there were times, and I share it all the time, there were times when I couldn't pick my Bible up. I couldn't pray, because I was on the verge of, where are you, God? How could you allow this to happen to me? And it was a real struggle to believe that God was a part of this. For me, it was easier to see or to say that I was being abandoned or he was punishing me. But I had I kind of feel like the guy that was on that bed and his friends brought him to Jesus. Because at that time, I just couldn't find him. I couldn't hear him. I felt lost, totally and completely lost. I was broken. But, the word tells me that they get into the door's blocked, and they climb up on the roof, they pull the roof up, and they let him down in front of Jesus. And it was their faith. It was their faith that got him there. And I kind of feel like I had some strong faithed people who just wouldn't leave me alone, even when I told them to.
That's good.
When everybody else walked away, they stayed, and it was only a few of them, but that's all it needed to be. And they were the ones, and I have to say, they were the ones who helped me find that strength within me to get back up, and I preach a message called Get Up Anyway. And I talk about getting up any way you can, if it is that your brother has to carry you, don't allow pride to stop you from getting back up. Any way you can get back up, get up.
Yeah,
and that's what did it for me. So that process was really a process of having good people in my life to remind me of the messages that I've preached in the past, to remind me of the battles that I'd conquered. Because it's so easy to forget when you're failing and failing and failing. It's so easy to forget.
No, definitely. I mean, it's definitely essential for, to have the right people around you and, leading you, guiding you, helping you, giving you words of wisdom and words of encouragement, especially, if you have a circle that's similar to yourself and giving you words from the, from the word itself. That's really fantastic. Those that are ready to go the extra mile. And just like the story, like you says from the Bible, willing to do whatever it takes, having the tenacity to say, okay, we can't get through. Let's go high. Let's go up. So definitely. No, that's really inspiring. I mean, some of the events that you do currently at the moment, I know you do Alabaster Box and quite a few others. How did you start building those events exactly?
Yeah, so Alabaster Box came about with the theme on the Alabaster Box, and the underlying theme for Alabaster Box is break the box and release the fragrance. And how that came about was really just being in that place where, for myself, how I always approach things is, what are you going through, Dawn? Okay, well, you're not the only one. There are so many other people that are going through this. So if I take my story and I put my story out there as being everybody's story, then there are people that can resonate with it. So for me, it was like, okay, it was so difficult for me breaking that box, breaking out of that box, breaking out of the place where people put you, where you allow people to put you. So for me, it was like, for me, it was like, it took so much tenacity for me to break past that whole stigma of divorce, break past the stigma of having a broken relationship, mashed down, lost my house, lost my car, lost everything, how do I break past that? And let's have a look at what the Bible says, right? The woman, she had to push past the critics and break that box and get to Jesus. And it was, okay, well, let me put a conference on. And it was really just the Alabaster Box, really just, okay, let's just do it small scale. Let's invite some women and let's call it the Alabaster Box Women's Conference. And I got a few women in a room, and TD puts it this way. TD Jakes says, if you're the most intelligent person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And I love that, because you have to have people around you who are more intelligent than you, who have greater vision than you, who have other skills, And so I thrive on that. I thrive on people saying to me, Dawn, have you thought about doing it this way? So I got movers and shakers in the room and said, listen, ladies, what do you think about this? And they were all like, yeah, you could do this, you could do that. Okay, but, and I thought, okay, well, let's put it on. And we kind of like said, right, how are we going to do it? Okay, let's get some caterers in. Let's what can you do? And then that's how we did it. And it happened, and it just kept happening, and it just kept growing. And it was like, this is crazy, and that's how it began. And, the War Convention, which is Word of Flame Revival, what that came out of, which was my love for the Word of God, and how I see that over the years, kind of growing up, I'm seeing that it was the word that's really lifted me every single time. And that I'm going to churches and I'm seeing that the word is not being preached the way that it used to be preached. It's, and so you go in and it's like, but what was that? So I wanted to do a conference where I could get some really dynamic, raw speakers who just, no fluff, no feathers. They just tell you it like it is, and that's how that came about, again, in the similar kind of way as Alabaster Box. That's how that came about. And then the Mighty Men Conference, that came about by me kind of looking at our men. And I have two sons, so I have a real passion for men, and I've seen the struggle that my boys have gone through. For some reason, we don't seem to think that men have emotions and that they feel and that they worry and that they the same emotions that I have. But where do they have an outlet? I need our men to know that we believe in them, that they're mighty and that they can do and that they can be. And so that's how that one came about.
Okay. What has been your most memorable experience at one of your events?
The most memorable experience for me at one of my events was the Mighty Men Conference. When all those men, young men, I mean, between the ages of about 25 to 40, 35, I'd say, just all surged forward after I preached the message. I think the message was, I was raised in the enemy's camp. And all these guys just got up and just came to the front to be prayed for. And these guys they heard it from outside, and I had guys, Asian guys, white guys, they were all coming in from the streets. And they were there was one guy had his shorts on and, and he just had t-shirts on. He was covered in tattoos and he walked in and he came to the altar and it was just wow, this, it blew my mind. It blew my mind. And I really, just, that, I'll never forget that. And that was so moving for me, because it was just men are here and they need that help. They want that help. They and why don't we do more for them? And that for me was a big thing.
And was the venue at your church, or was it at a rented location?
Yeah, it was at my church. It was at my church. And and that was the strangest thing about it, because where we were at the time, it looked like a warehouse, from outside, an old grubby warehouse, and you had to walk up these metal stairs to get in. Or when and so for them to have heard us from outside and to come in, it was shocking. But, and then, for me, that was amazing. That was amazing. And then I suppose another memorable event for me was when I went to London again. It was a conference again, and I spoke at a conference, and again I had a massive surge of men come forward. I mean, the video, when I watch the video, it still gives me chills now. And they all just surged forward, and they would just hands up in the air, and just for me personally, I don't know about anybody else, but I just think it's the most amazing thing to see men worship. I love it. I love seeing. I just feel like when men start to praise and worship, major things begin to happen on the earth. So yeah.
What's it like running a church in 2019 in terms of structure, business, ministry, being led versus what the law says? What's it like running a church?
Oh gosh, listen, Darryl, it's hard. I can't even tell you. It's difficult. It's not easy. It's not something you can do by yourself. Back in the day, you had the figurehead. You had the one-man show, which was the guy at the top, and he did everything. He made all the decisions, and he said jump, and everybody said how high. Generation today, you say jump, they say why. You can't make those decisions for yourself anymore, and indeed don't want to. So what's it like running a church in 21st century? You've got to be in tune with the people. It can't be a one-man show. It's got to be a team effort. It's got to be really structured around what people need, an experience. People want an experience. They don't want fluff. They want an experience. And from the moment they walk in the doors or through the doors, within those first 30 seconds, they're making their minds up as to whether they're coming back. And I think that church has got to be a real experience now. It's and if people feel that when they come through the doors, they feel that experience, that, it's real, it's honest, it's congruent with where they are, then they'll come back. So running a church now is difficult because you have so many different people attending church for different reasons. And I suppose that's always been the case. But I think in the 21st century, where you have technology, if you're not on the ball with that, if you can easily get left behind and become irrelevant very, very quickly. So with New Harvest at the moment, we have a lot of people tuning in from around the world. I have a big congregation outside of New Harvest who tune in on a Sunday, and we're looking at sort of revamping how we do things. But I suppose for me, it's that why. Why are we here? And that's the driving force. Keep on interrogating that why, because the why last year or the why 2 years ago might not be the why today.
Very true.
Yeah. So, but it's difficult it's difficult without a team. It's difficult. You've got to understand why you're there, or else, you might as well just shut up shop and go home.
Yeah. Now, just moving on to your book, what was it like writing your first book? Did you come across any opposition or resistance, be that from companies or just your own self-belief maybe, or just in terms of subject matter? Or what was it like writing your first book?
So writing my first book for me was really easy in the sense that it was out of my own personal experience. So my first book was Don't Waste Your Pain. And it really came, for me, it was easy to write it because it was what I'd lived. So I wanted to put that down on paper, and I wanted people to see that and relate to that, and it blessed them. But it was difficult. Writing the book was the easy bit. The hard bit was marketing it. The hard bit was getting people to know about it, reaching the hands of people. So, but when I wrote my book in 2004, in the first book, I started really I didn't know about this kind of independent. It wasn't so much out there that much about sort of, self-publishing wasn't that big. So I was approaching the big publishing companies like Destiny House, Bethany, all of those guys. And they were just consistently saying, no. And it's hard to get those no's, really, really. And I say to people now that, that was the most difficult part for me. And for me, I say to people now, don't be put off by no. Never be put off by no. Some of the greatest people who are doing the greatest things out there right now have received no's, so many no, and right now they're doing their thing. Find a way through. Find a way through. If you can't find a way through, make a way through. You know, if there's not a table for you to sit at, design your table yourself. If there's not a door, if opportunity doesn't come and knock at your door, go and find its door. You know, build, if it doesn't open a door to you, build your own door. That's how I did it. So after I wrote my first book and I finally got through, and it was so expensive. After that, I started finding ways and finding proofreaders, editors, people like that to do it for me.
I suppose working on, having the next set of eyes on your work when you're writing a book is always invaluable. Which platforms do you currently sell your books on, and why those platforms specifically?
So I sell them on Amazon, and I use all the social media platforms that I can. Social media for me is free marketing. So that's what I use. I use social media. I just bang it out on social media, on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. That's what I use. Pinterest, get it out there. That's the way I do it.
And on your journey, what have been the best ways you found to market your book? You spoke earlier about marketing and that you help other men and women through your coaching with marketing. How have you found is the best ways to market your book?
The best ways I've found to market my book really has been through word of mouth, putting myself out there, videos, really making sure that the whole scene is set up for my books. So when I do my videos, my books are in the background. I talk about my books. I talk to people who are other authors, and really just looking for referrals all the time, looking for people who've read the books, those testimonials, getting it out, keeping it in the public eye through social media.
That's good. So basically social proof, really.
Exactly.
It's really good. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, that's good. And what's your work schedule like when you're writing a book? I know you're author of 5 books, is it? 5 books, right? What's your work schedule like? How long does it take to write a book?
So it just depends, because it just depends on if I'm going to be doing a short ebook. It just depends on the wording. So the one that I've just written now, which is 35,000 words. So that 35,000 words. So that took me a month, 2 months. Yeah, to just bang that out, a month to bang that out. But then where it takes longer is the proofreading, the copy editing, the backing and forth, to go back and forth. But to put it down on paper didn't take me any much time at all, about a month to get that down on the laptop, as it were.
Yeah. That's really good.
Yeah.
Do you have
it's easy to do that.
Do you have any suggestions to help upcoming authors to become better writers?
Write. Just write. Yeah. Don't be a critic. Just write. Don't think about the title of the book. Just write. Because the book title will actually come as you're writing. If you can put the titles up, the chapters. So let's say you write the title for 5 chapters then. So put those out and then write under each chapter. Every day, put something under each chapter. Just write until you've finished, until you stopped, until there's nothing, until you're drained. Then you stop. Muhammad Ali says, somebody once asked him, how many sit-ups do you do a day? He says, I don't count. I stop when I have no strength left. That's when I stop. You see what I'm saying? So for me, when I write a chapter, and I don't write a chapter based on 5,000 words. I write a chapter based on when I'm empty, when the vessel's empty. Right, then I move to the next chapter. So that's what I would say to people. Just put the framework out then, as it were. Or like when you're putting up a house, you've got the framework out first. And then fill in the gaps, which are the words. So let's say if you were writing a book on how to conquer fear, then you'd write that first bit, maybe fear, and then right underneath that, and then conquer right underneath that, and then the fight right underneath that. Before you know it, you've got your book.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier about when you was growing up and being around 7, 8, or 9, and being quite focused on selling and always having an entrepreneurial spirit. If you could tell your younger self anything, what would it be?
Believe in yourself more. Believe in yourself more. Pursue those dreams with everything that you have. Don't wait to be affirmed, approved by anyone. Get up and do. It's never too early and it's never too late. So I would go back to I would tell my younger self, believe in yourself. You're as good as you imagine yourself to be.
Yeah. What's the vision for Pastor Dawn Davis Lawrence? What gets you most excited about the years ahead?
What gets me most excited about the years ahead is touching lives globally, more lives globally. Really just having that global reach where my books are in the hands of millions of people all over the world, where my videos, the sermons that I preach are touching and changing lives. So the vision for me is that I would very much be able to reach more of a global audience and do more efforts globally I work with a project called Amek Hope, which helps children whose parents have died of AIDS. I would want to go out there and build wells in those villages, get clean water to those children, get the women and the families, get them up into, what do they do? Are they entrepreneurs? Can they sell? What can they sow? What can they do to get them up and moving? So that's the global thing in terms of Elevate, to be able to have Elevate reaching lives globally, so that we've got coaches, Elevate coaches all over the world, changing. It's not just here in the UK, but I've got Elevate coaches pretty much everywhere.
Oh, wow. And finally, where can people connect with you? Your social media links, your website, the station that you're on television. How can people see more of your stuff, your work?
So I'm about to be televised on Revelation TV. We're about to go there. I was on Faith World TV, but the reach wasn't big enough for me. So we're going to be going on to Revelation TV. That's going to be launching pretty soon. You can find me on Instagram, on Facebook, on Dawn Davis Lawrence or Pastor Dawn Davis Lawrence. On YouTube, I can be found there. I'm just rebranding in terms of my website, which is dawndavislawrence.org, and also dawndavislawrence.com. And they can even put up Elevate Christian TV. It will come up. Pretty much Google me, they'll find me pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, that's really cool. And do you have any last words that you would like to tell our audience, Pastor?
I would want to say to them is that internal narrative, switch off that narrative that tells you that you can't. Switch off the narrative that tells you that you're not enough, that you don't. Money is fluid. Don't allow money to stop you from doing anything that you want to do. Money is fluid. The money that's in your pocket right now was in a million pockets before it got to you. So don't allow money to be your master. You master money. Don't allow money to master you. So when you begin to really understand who you are, then you'll know what you're supposed to be doing, how you're supposed to be doing it, and your tribe will come to you.
Yeah. I suppose finding your purpose and, not looking at the things that hold you back, like lack of money or lack of time and things like that. Just keep moving forward. No, inspiring words, Pastor. I do thank you for being on the show. Thank you for spending this morning with me. And,
enjoyed it, Daryl.
We definitely will do a part 2 after you've gotten onto Revelation TV, and we'll do more of a recap on that. But thank you very much for coming on the show. And everybody else, this has been a Business Marketing Finance podcast. We'll see you next week. I'm your host, Dal James. Don't forget to log on to our new website, businessmarketingfinance.com. We'll see you next week.
This is the Business Marketing and Finance Podcast, the podcast for all your business marketing and financial needs. Get insight from experienced professionals as they delve deep into their passions and share their knowledge each week with your host, Daryl James. Like to follow or learn more? You know what to do. Hit that subscribe button now.